Well, as America is celebrating Veterans Day, Corpus Christi is honoring their own as well. A tribute was held at the Seaside Memorial Park and Funeral Home, honoring those who served during World War I. And today actually marks 100 years since that war ended. People enjoyed live music and a wreath of dedication. A list of soldiers from the coastal bend who lost their lives in the war was also read during the ceremony.
It just showed a tremendous resolve and commitment of the American people toward liberty and toward defending our freedom.
Garcia says over 4 million people were involved in World War I. 13,000 of them were women. Our thoughts definitely go out to those who served, and we appreciate everything they do for our country.